Shaquille O'Neal surprises young player at practice with gift that changes his life. Are you ready to witness one of the most heartwarming surprises in basketball history? Today, you're going to discover how a routine practice session at a community center became a life-changing moment when Shaquille O'Neal showed up unannounced with a gift that transformed a young player's entire future. This is a story about recognizing potential, the power of believing in young people, and how sometimes the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact on someone's life. If this story moves you the way it should, please hit that like button. Right now, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications because moments like this remind us that heroes come in all forms and that kindness can change everything. Now, let's witness this incredible surprise that nobody saw coming. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the aging gymnasium of the Riverside Community Center in Los Angeles, casting their familiar harsh glow over the worn wooden floor. It was 6:30 p.m. on a Thursday, and while most teenagers were home playing video games or scrolling through social media, 14-year-old Marcus Williams was exactly where he'd been every weekday for the past 2 years, practicing basketball with an intensity that impressed even the most dedicated coaches. "Marcus, take a water break, son," called out Coach Rodriguez, a retired high school teacher who volunteered his time to run the after-school basketball program. "You've been going non-stop for an hour and a half." Marcus paused mid-dribble, sweat dripping from his face onto the court. "Just 5 more minutes, coach. I want to get this crossover move right." At 5'6" and 130 pounds, Marcus wasn't physically imposing, but what he lacked in size he made up for in pure determination. While other kids came and went from the program, Marcus had perfect attendance. While others complained about drills, Marcus asked for extra repetitions. While others talked about their dreams of playing professionally, Marcus simply worked toward them with quiet, relentless focus. Coach Rodriguez watched as Marcus continued practicing his ball-handling drills, the same moves he'd been working on for weeks. The kid's dedication was remarkable, but it also worried the coach. Marcus's single mother worked 2 jobs to keep their small apartment, and basketball seemed to be the boys' only escape from the stress of their financial struggles. "Hey, coach," said Jamal, a 16-year-old who was one of the better players in the U's program, "doesn't Marcus ever get tired? I've never seen him take a day off." "Some kids play basketball," Coach Rodriguez replied, watching Marcus execute a perfect behind-the-back dribble. "Marcus lives basketball. It's not just what he does, it's who he is." What Coach Rodriguez didn't know was that Marcus had a reason for his unwavering dedication that went beyond just loving the game. Hidden in his backpack was a notebook, filled with detailed plans for his future. High school team tryouts, college scholarship requirements, professional league statistics, and training regimens copied from magazines and websites. At 14, Marcus had mapped out his entire life, and every hour spent in this gym was an investment in making those dreams reality. As practice officially ended at 8 p.m., most of the other kids gathered their things and headed home. Marcus remained on the court, shooting free throws with a ball that had seen better days, the leather worn smooth from thousands of hours of use. "Marcus," Coach Rodriguez called out, "your mom's picking you up tonight, right?" "She gets off work at 9, Marcus replied, not breaking his shooting rhythm. "I'll just keep practicing until then." This had become the routine. While other parents picked up their kids immediately after practice, Marcus's mother, Sandra, worked evening shifts as a cleaning supervisor at a downtown office building. She couldn't afford to leave work early, and Marcus couldn't afford to take a bus home, so he simply turned the extra hour into additional practice time. Coach Rodriguez had offered to drive Marcus home on multiple occasions, but the boy always politely declined. "Mom says I shouldn't be a burden on other people," Marcus would say. "Besides, I can use the extra practice time." As Marcus continued shooting free throws in the nearly empty gym, neither he nor Coach Rodriguez noticed the CTT through a black SUV that had pulled into the parking lot outside. The driver sat for several minutes, watching through the windows as the young player worked alone under the harsh fluorescent lights. Inside the vehicle, Shaquille O'Neal was finishing a phone call with his business manager about a charity event scheduled for the following month, but his attention kept drifting to the scene in the gym. A skinny kid practicing by himself with a dedication that reminded Shaq of his own childhood. "Marcus, I need to lock up soon," Coach Rodriguez called out around 8:45. "Your mom should be here any minute." "Just a few more shots, Coach. I'm at 47 out of 50 free throws. I want to hit 50. Coach Rodriguez smiled despite himself. This was typical Marcus, always chasing perfection, always pushing for just a little bit more. The coach had seen hundreds of kids come through his program over the years, but he'd never seen anyone with Marcus's combination of talent, work, ethic, and pure love for the game. What neither of them knew was that this ordinary Thursday evening practice was about to become anything but ordinary, and that the next few minutes would change Marcus Williams's life in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. If you're already feeling inspired by Marcus's dedication, please take a moment to hit that like button. What happens next will show you the incredible power of recognizing and nurturing potential. Marcus had just sunk his 49th consecutive free throw when the gymnasium doors opened with a loud creak. Both he and Coach Rodriguez turned toward the sound, expecting to see Sandra Williams arriving for pickup. Instead, a figure that seemed to Doritu fill the entire doorframe stepped into the gym. Even in casual clothes, jeans, a plain black t-shirt, and sneakers, Shaquille O'Neal's presence was unmistakable. At 7'1", he had to duck slightly to clear the doorway, and his entrance into the modest community center gym felt like a scene from a movie. Coach Rodriguez's jaw dropped. Holy! Marcus, ball still in his hands, froze mid-shooting motion and stared at the NBA legend who had just walked into his practice space. "Evening, gentlemen," Shaq said with his trademark warm smile. "Sorry to interrupt. I was driving by and saw the lights on. Mind if I come in?" You're Shaquille O'Neal," Marcus stammered, still holding the basketball against his chest. "That's what my driver's license says," Shaq replied with a chuckle. "But you can call me Shaq. What's your name, young man?" "Marcus Williams." "Nice to meet you, Marcus. And you must be the coach?" Shaq extended his massive hand to Coach Rodriguez, who was still processing the surreal nature of the situation. "Coach Rodriguez. Wow. What brings you to our little gym, Mr. O'Neal?" "Actually, I've been watching you practice, Marcus," Shaq said, his attention focused entirely on the young player. "I drive past here sometimes on my way home, and I've noticed you in here almost every night. Same time, same dedication. That caught my attention." Marcus felt his heart racing. "You've been watching me practice?" "Not in a creepy way," Shaq laughed. "More like, I recognize that level of commitment. I see a kid who's here when everyone else has gone home, working on his craft, and I remember being that kid myself." Coach Rodriguez found his voice. "Marcus is special, Mr. O'Neal. I've been coaching for 20 years, and I've never seen anyone with his work ethic." "I can see that," Shaq said, looking around the modest gym with its aging equipment and patched floor. "Marcus, can I ask you something? What are you working on right now?" "Free throws," Marcus replied, still somewhat starstruck. "I was at 49 out of 50, trying to make it perfect." 50 in a row? That's impressive. Mind if I watch you shoot that last one?" Marcus nodded, positioned himself at the free throw line, and went through his careful pre-shot routine. The gym fell completely silent except for the sound of his dribbling. He shot the ball in a perfect arc, and it swished through the net without touching the rim. 50 for 50, Shaq said, genuinely impressed. How often do you hit that many? In a row? This is my best, Marcus admitted. Usually I get to about 35 or 40 before I miss one. And then, what do you do? Start over. Shaq exchanged a look with Coach Rodriguez. Start over. Every time? Yes, sir. My goal is to make 100 in a row. I figure if I can do that, I won't miss them in games when it matters. For a moment, Shaq was quiet, studying this determined young player who reminded him so much of himself at that age. Marcus, can I ask you about your goals? What do you want to accomplish in basketball? Marcus's eyes lit up, and he began talking with the passion that only came when discussing his deepest dreams. I want to play college basketball and get a scholarship, so my mom doesn't have to worry about paying for my education. Then, I want to play professionally, maybe in the NBA if I'm good enough. And if you're not good enough for the NBA, then I'll play overseas, or in the G League, or wherever I can keep playing at a high level. But I'll also get my degree so I can coach kids like me who love the game but need someone to believe in them. Shaq felt a tightness in his throat. This kid didn't just love basketball, he understood it as a path to something bigger than himself. Marcus, how do you get here every day? Does your mom drive you? She drops me off before her first job at 3 p.m. and picks me up after her second job ends at 9. I just practice until she gets here. Every day? Every day that the gym is open. Shaq looked around the facility again, taking in the worn equipment, the patched floor, the basketball Marcus had been using, a ball that should have been replaced months ago. Coach Rodriguez, can I speak with you privately for a moment? The two men walked to the far end of the gym, leaving Marcus to continue shooting free throws, though he kept glancing over at them with curiosity. Coach, tell me about this kid's situation, Shaq said quietly. Single mother, works 2 jobs just to keep their heads above water. Marcus never complains, never asks for anything, just shows up and works harder than kids who have every advantage. He's talented, but more than that, he's got something you can't teach, heart. What does he need? Coach Rodriguez was surprised by the directness of the question. Honestly, better equipment would help. A good basketball, maybe some proper training gear. But what he really needs is opportunity. He's good enough to play at higher levels, but he needs exposure, needs to be seen by high school coaches who can give him a chance. Shaq nodded thoughtfully. What if I told you I might be able to help with both of those things? I'd say that would change his life. Good, Shaq said with a smile that suggested he'd already made a decision. Because I've got some ideas. Shaq walked back over to where Marcus was still practicing, now working on 3-point shots with the same methodical precision he'd shown with free throws. Marcus, can I see that ball for a second? Marcus passed him the worn basketball, and Shaq examined it carefully. The leather was smooth from overuse. The grip was nearly gone, and it was slightly underinflated. How long have you been using this ball? About 2 years. It was a hand-me-down from my cousin when he graduated high school. And this is the only ball you practice with? Yes, sir. We can't really afford to buy new equipment. Shaq handed the ball back to Marcus and pulled out his phone. Marcus, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. If you could have anything, any equipment, any opportunity, anything at all, what would help you the most? In pursuing your basketball dreams? Marcus thought carefully before answering. I guess I'd love to have a really good basketball to practice with. And maybe the chance to play against better competition so I could see how good I really am. That's it? Just a ball and better. Competition? Well, Marcus said hesitantly, I've always dreamed of going to a real basketball camp. You know, where college coaches come to watch. But those cost thousands of dollars, and your mom is working 2 jobs to support you both. I understand. Marcus nodded, looking down at his worn sneakers. Marcus, what would you say if I told you I was about to make some phone calls that could change your entire basketball future? I'd say that sounds too good to be true, Shaq laughed. Sometimes the best things in life sound too good to be true. Coach Rodriguez, do you have somewhere we can sit down? I have some calls to make. For the next 20 minutes, while Marcus and Coach Rodriguez watched in amazement, Shaq made a series of phone calls. They could only hear his side of the conversations, but it became clear that he was calling in some significant favors. Hey, it's Shaq. Yeah, I know it's late. I'm sitting in a community center with a kid you need to see. No, I'm serious about this. He's special. Elite basketball camp? Next month? Can you get him in? Full scholarship? You're the best. Coach. Thompson? It's Shaquille. I need a favor. I've got a 14-year-old who needs to be seen by the right high school coaches. What's the best showcase tournament for kids his age? Perfect. Can you get him registered? Money's not an issue. I'll cover everything. Marcus, Shaq said, after ending his final call, I just got you into 3 elite basketball camps this summer, including one where college scouts will be watching. All expenses paid. Marcus stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious? Dead serious. But that's just the beginning. Shaq walked out to his SUV and returned carrying several large bags. Marcus, come here. He opened the first bag and pulled out a brand new basketball, a genuine leather Wilson Evolution, the same ball used in college games. This is yours. Marcus held the ball reverently, feeling the perfect grip and proper weight. Mr. O'Neal, this must have cost. It's not about the cost. It's about having the right tools to develop your skills. Shaq opened another bag and pulled out a complete set of training gear. Cones, agility ladders, resistance bands, and a shooting sleeve. This is for your individual training. But there's more, Shaq continued, opening a third bag to reveal brand new basketball shoes, shorts, and practice jerseys. A player's equipment should never be the reason he can't perform his best. Marcus was overwhelmed, holding the new basketball and staring at the pile of equipment that represented more sporting goods than he'd owned in his entire life combined. Coach Rodriguez, Shaq said, turning to the older man, I've also arranged for Marcus to work with a personal trainer twice a week. There's a guy I know who specializes in developing young players. He'll help Marcus with strength training, skill development, and mental preparation. Shaq, this is incredible, but I have to ask, why Marcus? Why are you doing all this? Shaq sat down on the bleachers and gestured for Marcus and Coach Rodriguez to join him. Let me tell you what I see when I look at Marcus. I see a kid who has every excuse to quit. Limited resources, no advantages, a mother working 2 jobs just to survive. But instead of making excuses, he's in here every single night, working harder than kids who have everything handed to them. He looked directly at Marcus. But more than that, I see someone who understands that basketball isn't just about individual success. You talked about getting a scholarship to help your mother, about becoming a coach to help other kids. That tells me you understand something that a lot of talented players never learn. Success is about lifting others up, not just yourself. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes. Mr. O'Neal, I don't know how to thank you. You thank me by never forgetting this feeling and by doing the same thing for someone else when you're in a position to help. And Marcus, I want you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll never let anyone tell you that you're too small, or that you don't have the right background, or that your dreams are too big. Promise me you'll keep working with the same dedication I've seen, but now with the confidence that comes from knowing someone believes in your potential. I promise, Marcus said, his voice shaking with emotion. Just then, Sandra Williams walked through the gym doors, stopping short when she saw her son sitting with Shaquille O'Neal, surrounded by brand-new basketball equipment. Marcus, what's going on here? Sandra Williams stood frozen in the doorway, taking in the surreal scene before her. Her son, whom she'd been expecting to find shooting baskets alone as usual, was sitting next to one of the most famous athletes in the world, surrounded by more basketball equipment than she could afford in 5 years. Mom, Marcus said, jumping up from the bleachers, this is Shaquille O'Neal. He's giving me basketball equipment and camp scholarships and… Slow down, baby, Sandra said, approaching cautiously. She was still wearing her cleaning supervisor uniform, exhaustion evident on her face after another long day of working 2 jobs. Mr. O'Neal, I'm Sandra Williams, Marcus's mother. I'm not sure what's happening here, but if my son has done something wrong… Ma'am, your son hasn't done anything wrong, Shaq said, standing up to his full height and extending his hand. He's done everything right. I've been watching him practice here for weeks, and I've never seen a young player with his combination of talent, work ethic, and character. Sandra shook his massive hand, still processing the situation. I don't understand. Why would you be watching my son? Coach Rodriguez stepped forward to help explain. Mrs. Williams, Mr. O'Neal has just provided Marcus with thousands of dollars worth of equipment and training opportunities. He's gotten him into elite basketball camps that could change his entire future. Sandra's expression shifted from confusion to concern. Mr. O'Neal, I appreciate whatever you're trying to do, but we can't accept charity. I've taught Marcus that we work for what we get. Mrs. Williams, Shaq said gently, I completely understand and respect that attitude. But this isn't charity. This is an investment. I'm investing in Marcus's potential because I believe he has the talent and character to succeed at the highest levels of basketball. But why? What do you get out of this? Shaq smiled. What I get is the satisfaction of knowing I helped a deserving young man reach his potential. Mrs. Williams, can I tell you what I see when I look at your son? Sandra nodded, still holding on to Marcus protectively. I see a kid who's here every single night, working harder than players who have every advantage. I see someone who talks about basketball not as a way to get rich and famous, but as a way to get an education and help his family. I see a young man who wants to become a coach so he can help other kids who love the game but need someone to believe in them. Shaq's voice grew more passionate. Mrs. Williams, you've raised a son who understands that success isn't about what you can get, but about what you can give. That's extraordinary. And it tells me that any investment in Marcus is going to pay dividends not just for him, but for everyone whose life he touches. Sandra felt tears forming in her eyes. Mr. O'Neal, you don't understand our situation. I work 2 jobs just to keep our apartment. I can't afford gas to drive him to camps in other cities. I can't afford hotel rooms or meals. You don't have to, Shaq interrupted gently. Everything is covered. Transportation, lodging, meals, equipment, training, everything. All Marcus has to do is show up and work hard, which he's already proven he knows how to do. But what's the catch? What Do you want from us? I want Marcus to promise me 3 things, Shaq said, looking directly at the young player. First, that he'll work as hard with these new opportunities as he's been working without them. Second, that he'll never forget where he came from or the mother who sacrificed to give him chances. And third, that when he's successful, not if, but when, he'll do the same thing for another kid who needs someone to believe in them. Marcus nodded vigorously. I promise all of that. Sandra looked around the gym, at the worn floor where her son had spent countless hours chasing his dreams, at the aging equipment that represented the best this underfunded community center could provide, and at the pile of brand-new gear that suddenly made those dreams seem achievable. Marcus has always been special, she said quietly. Even when he was little, he was different, more focused, more determined. I've watched him come here every day for 2 years, never complaining about the old equipment or the long hours waiting for me to pick him up. I've watched him study basketball videos on his phone because we can't afford camps or private coaching. She looked at Shaq with new understanding. You're not just giving him equipment, are you? You're giving him hope. Mrs. Williams, your son already had hope. I'm just giving him the tools to make that hope a reality. Coach Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing this life-changing conversation, spoke up. Mrs. Williams, in 20 years of coaching, I've never seen anything like this. Marcus has earned this opportunity through his dedication and character. Mr. O'Neill is recognizing something special that was already there. Sandra walked over to her son and hugged him tightly. Baby, do you understand what this means? It means I get to chase my dreams for real now, Marcus replied, his voice muffled against his mother's shoulder. It means maybe we won't have to worry about college money, and maybe you won't have to work so hard forever. It means, Shaq added, that a community center in Los Angeles is about to produce a basketball player who's going to make everyone proud. As they prepared to leave the gym that night, Shaq pulled Coach Rodriguez aside one final time. Coach, I want you to document Marcus's progress. Take videos of his training, keep records of his improvement, track his games and tournaments. I have a feeling this story is just beginning. You really think he can make it to the next level? Coach, I've played with and against the best players in the world. What Marcus has, that combination of skill, work ethic, and heart, that's what separates good players from great ones. With the right opportunities and continued hard work, there's no limit to what he can achieve. As the Williams family loaded their car with Marcus's new equipment, Sandra approached Shaq one more time. Mr. O'Neill, I don't have words to thank you for this, but I promise you that Marcus will make the most of every opportunity you've given him. Mrs. Williams, something tells me that 5 years from now, we'll all be watching Marcus on television, and you'll be the proudest mother in America. 2 years later, Shaquille O'Neal sat in the stands of a packed high school gymnasium in Orange County, watching as Marcus Williams, now 6'1" and 155 pounds of pure determination, led his team to the California State Championship game. The skinny 14-ounce, 14-year-old who had been practicing alone in a community center had become one of the most highly recruited point guards in the state. The transformation had been remarkable. The elite camps Shaq had arranged had not only improved Marcus's skills, but had put him on the radar of top high school coaches. The personal training had added strength and explosiveness to his natural quickness. Most importantly, the confidence that came from knowing someone believed in his potential had unleashed a level of play that impressed even seasoned scouts. "That's your boy out there," said Coach Thompson, the elite camp director who had become one of Marcus's mentors. "He's got scholarship offers from 15 Division I schools, including Duke, UCLA, and North Carolina. He's earned every one of a fee. Them, Shaq replied, watching as Marcus executed a perfect no-look pass that led to an easy basket for his teammate. But more than that, look at how he plays. He makes everyone around him better. On the court, Marcus was orchestrating his team's offense with the vision and maturity of a college player. But what impressed Shaq most wasn't the flashy plays. It was the way Marcus celebrated his teammates' successes, encouraged players who made mistakes, and carried himself with the humble confidence of someone who remembered where he came from. During halftime, as Marcus walked toward the locker room, he spotted Shaq in the stands and raised his hand in acknowledgement. The gesture was subtle but meaningful, a reminder of the bond that had changed both their lives. "You know what the best part is?" Shaq said to Coach Thompson. He started a mentorship program at his old community center. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he goes back to work with younger kids who are in the same situation he was in. Paying it forward? Exactly. Last month, he brought me a 12-year-old named David who reminds him of himself at that age. Same work ethic, same determination, same financial challenges. Marcus asked if I could help David the way I helped him. Coach Thompson smiled. And next month, David starts his first elite basketball camp. The cycle continues. The second half of the championship game was a showcase of everything Marcus had learned and developed over the past 2 years. His court vision, leadership, and clutch shooting led his team to a 15-point victory, capping off a perfect senior season. After the game, as Marcus celebrated with his teammates and family, Shaq made his way down to the court. The young man who had once been starstruck in his presence now greeted him with the easy confidence of someone who had grown into his potential. "Shaq, did you see that last three-pointer?" "I saw everything, Marcus. I'm so proud of you. Not just the basketball, but the young man you've become." Sandra Williams, now wearing a championship t-shirt and beaming with pride, joined their conversation. "Mr. O'Neal, I don't think you understand what you started that night in the community center." "What do you mean?" "Marcus isn't just succeeding. He's inspiring an entire community. Kids who never thought college was possible are working harder in school because they see what Marcus achieved. Parents are dreaming bigger for their children because you showed them that someone cares about kids from our neighborhood." Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "Shaq, you should see the community center. Now, they've got 30 kids in the program, and half of them are there because they heard my story. Coach Rodriguez says it's the biggest the program has ever been. And," Sandra added, "the scholarship Marcus just accepted to UCLA comes with a full ride plus a commitment from him to establish a fund for other community center kids to attend elite camps." Shaq felt the familiar tightness in his throat that came whenever he witnessed the ripple effect of kindness. "Marcus, what was the deciding factor in choosing UCLA?" "Their commitment to community outreach. They're going to let me start a formal program connecting college players with community center kids across Los Angeles. We're calling it the Second Chance Foundation. Because everyone deserves a second chance to chase their dreams. Because everyone deserves a first chance to believe their dreams are possible." 3 months later, at the formal announcement of the Second Chance Foundation, Marcus stood at a podium in the same community center gymnasium where his life had changed. The room was packed with kids, parents, coaches, and media, all there to witness the launch of a program that would provide equipment, training, and camp scholarships to underprivileged young athletes. 2 years ago, Marcus began, I was practicing, alone in this gym, with a worn-out basketball and impossible dreams. Tonight, because someone took the time to see potential where others saw problems, we're announcing a program that will make sure no kid with dedication and heart will be held back by circumstances beyond their control. He gestured to Shaq, who was sitting in the front row. Mr. Shaquille O'Neal taught me that success isn't measured by what you achieve for yourself, but by what you make possible for others. Tonight, we're making dreams possible for kids who might otherwise never get the chance to chase them. As he's even, the foundation was officially launched, with commitments from dozens of local businesses and sports figures. Shaq reflected on how a simple decision to stop and investigate a late-night practice session had grown into something that would impact thousands of young lives. "Marcus," he said after the ceremony, "do you remember what you promised me that first night? That I'd work hard, never forget where I came from, and help other kids when I was in a position to do so. You've kept every one of those promises, and you're just getting started. I'm proud to know you, and I'm excited to see what you accomplish next." "What I accomplish next," Marcus replied with a smile, "is make sure that every kid who walks into a community center gym with big dreams and worn-out equipment gets the same chance you gave me. The chance to prove that potential is everywhere. It just needs someone to recognize it and nurture it." 5 years later, the Second Chance Foundation had helped over 500 young athletes receive college scholarships, with Marcus Williams, now a starting point guard for the UCLA Bruins and a preseason All-American candidate, serving as its president. And it all started with a 7'1" former NBA star who chose to stop and pay attention to a skinny kid who never missed practice. This incredible story shows us that recognizing and nurturing potential in young people can create ripple effects that transform entire communities. If this story inspired you to look for ways to support young dreamers in your own community, please take a moment to like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about the power of believing in others, and share it with someone who might be in a position to change a young person's life. Remember, potential is everywhere around us. It just needs someone to recognize it, believe in it, and give it the tools to flourish. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful journey of dreams realized and legacies built.